A 9-year-old girl in Guinea was told she was going to the cinema. Her mother held her hand, promising a special treat. But there was no movie theater at the end of that walk. Instead, Katoucha Niane endured a ritual that would haunt her for decades, a trauma she would later transform into one of fashion's most powerful stories of resistance. From the runways of Paris, where she became Yves Saint Laurent's muse, to the villages of West Africa where she fought to protect other girls from what happened to her, Katoucha lived two lives, one bathed in spotlight and glamour, the other wrestling with demons that threatened to destroy everything she built. This is the story of how a supermodel turned her deepest wound into her greatest weapon, and why her mysterious death in the Seine River left questions that remain unanswered to this day. Katoucha Niane was born into privilege in Conakry, Guinea in 1960. Her father, Djibril Tamsir Niane, was no ordinary man. He was a prominent historian, archaeologist, and university lecturer. The family belonged to the educated elite, which made what happened to Katoucha even more devastating. In a household where books lined the walls and intellectual discourse filled dinner tables, ancient traditions still held their grip. She was 9 years old when her mother told her they were going somewhere special. "We're going to the cinema," her mother said, taking her daughter's hand. Katoucha's excitement must have been boundless. Movies were rare treats in 1960s Guinea, but when they arrived at their destination, there was no theater, no screen, no seats. Her mother had lied. What followed was a ritual practiced across parts of West Africa for centuries: female genital cutting, known as excision. Katoucha would later describe the experience as unimaginable in her memoir. The physical pain was only the beginning. The betrayal by her own mother, the person meant to protect her, created a wound that would never fully heal. She had been tricked into her own mutilation by someone she trusted completely. The trauma didn't end there. A year later, Guinea's political landscape shifted violently. President Sékou Touré turned hostile toward intellectuals like Katoucha's father. Djibril Tamsir Niane was forced into exile, leaving his family vulnerable. For her safety, 10-year-old Katoucha was sent to live with relatives in Mali. But safety was an illusion. In Mali, she endured another violation: abuse by those who were supposed to care for her. The details remained private for decades, mentioned only briefly in her autobiography. By the time she was 11, Katoucha had experienced betrayals that would shape everything that followed. Her childhood had been stolen twice over, first by tradition, then by circumstance. These experiences might have broken someone else entirely. For Katoucha, they became fuel. Though she wouldn't speak publicly about these traumas for decades, they drove every choice she made: the educated family that should have protected her, the mother who led her to harm, the relatives who violated her trust. Each betrayal taught her that safety was something she would have to create for herself. At 17, she married and became a mother. Duty did not quiet the storm inside her. The path laid out for her felt like a locked gate. She chose a different road and left. The choice angered family elders and shocked friends who saw her role as fixed. She understood the cost and left anyway. Around 1980, she reached Paris. She left family, husband, and the world she knew. Money was tight, connections were few. Fashion looked far away. Yet she carried a striking presence. Tall and poised, she drew the eye. Her face held angles that lit for cameras. Her walk carried calm power. She moved with restraint and then let that restraint break at the end of a runway. People noticed. Lanvin's creative mind, Jules-François Crahay, saw that potential. She first worked as a fitting model, the quiet role that teaches a craft from the inside. She watched how clothes were built and how a show comes together. She learned how a sleeve can change a line and how a pin can save a look. The work paid little but gave her a map. The studio became a classroom where questions could be answered by touch and sight. Then Thierry Mugler noticed her. His shows needed force and shape. She brought both. Her first big runway in the early 1980s signaled a change. She did more than walk. She held the room with focus that came from deep will, a straight spine, a still face, a measured turn at the end of the catwalk. These small acts created a charge in the air. Bookers felt it. Editors wrote it down. She learned call sheets, go-sees, and the rhythm of a season. Rejection came often and fast. She treated it like weather and kept walking. She learned to arrive early to fittings to protect her feet, to save her voice for the moment it mattered. She kept a small circle, paid attention on set, and watched how an editor's eye tracked a line. Craft turned fear into method, and method turned chance into a plan. Paris fashion in that era loved risk and scale. Doors opened a little wider to faces outside the old ideal. Timing helped, but it did not explain her rise. Many had beauty. She had command. Each job added proof. She began to string shows together across seasons, moving from one house to another with steady momentum. She was rebuilding her life in public view, one runway at a time. Steady bookings followed. She walked for Paco Rabanne, Christian Lacroix, Emmanuel Ungaro, Givenchy, Chanel, and Dior. Editors began to use a title that linked her to her roots. They called her the Pearl Princess, a reference to her Fula heritage. Some headlines used Ebony Princess. The title signaled visibility in a space that had very few Black African women at its top. The titles also reflected how she carried herself. Head high, shoulders set, gaze steady. Yves Saint Laurent looked at line and saw a match. His team spoke of a proud head on a long neck and strong shoulders. She fit the cut and the mood of the house. The partnership grew through fittings, shoots, and shows. She did more than display clothes. She refined the line of a jacket and made a silhouette speak across a room. Over the years, the bond held. In 2002, she appeared in Saint Laurent's final haute couture farewell at the Centre Pompidou, wearing a look inspired by Picasso. It felt like a salute to a long exchange between designer and muse. Her presence at that level shaped what people thought was possible. A Black African woman held the last look at a major farewell. It set a mark in the record. Younger talents took note. Critics linked her path to a wider opening for other faces who came next. Within her day-to-day, she kept the focus narrow. Arrive on time, study the cut, carry the look, thank the team, go home. The work gave structure and a shield. It did not erase early wounds, but it gave her a tool she could use. The runway years also taught her how to guard her energy. Call times can stretch, and show days can run long. She learned to rest in short windows, eat simple food, and keep a small circle near. Those habits kept rooms steady. Professional care is not glamorous, but it builds trust that lasts from season to season. In 1994, she moved into 2 roles at once. She launched a clothing line in her own name, Katoucha. The launch drew guests like Cher and Johnny Hallyday. The pieces were clean and direct, showing strength without noise. Years in ateliers had given her a sense of balance and proportion. Now she voiced that sense in design. That same year, she founded KPLCE, Katoucha pour la lutte contre l'excision. The name was formal, the plan was practical. Use access to reach leaders and families with health facts and personal truth in rooms where the topic is hidden. She traveled to Senegal and Guinea to meet women, elders, and practitioners. The story of a promised film and a clinic opened doors to a new view. Reports from the period note that some practitioners agreed to stop after those visits. She also used fashion spaces to reach young audiences, creating a Ben top model to find new talent and speak about rights and safety. The goal was steady, open paths for girls and young women, and place truth about harm in the same light as careers and dreams. Her schedule blended fittings, design meetings, travel, and village forums. The tasks were different, yet all drew from the same root. Fashion taught her how to hold a room. Activism asked her to use that skill for a purpose beyond work. She applied the same care. Prepare, show up, stay calm, speak clearly, listen, and leave people with a choice they could own. Her meetings in villages followed a pattern. She asked an elder to speak first, then a mother, then a girl old enough to have a view. Only after that did she tell her own story. She avoided shaming words and kept her tone even. She said she knew love can sit beside harm when people repeat what they were taught. The room often softened at that line. Afterward, small groups formed around her with more questions. Progress came one careful talk at a time. Behind the activism and entrepreneurship, Katoucha was fighting battles nobody saw. The trauma she had transformed into purpose was also destroying her from within. By the early 2000s, the cost of carrying her wounds so publicly was becoming visible to those closest to her. She turned to substances to quiet pain that success could not reach. The details stayed private, but friends spoke of seeing her struggle with dependencies that threatened what she had built. The woman who seemed unshakable on runways and at rallies was trying to dull wounds that never truly closed. Family life fractured for a time, and custody of her 3 children, Amy, Alexander, and Aiden, changed. The distance cut deep. It forced a pause that hurt and also clarified what mattered most. But Katoucha refused to let shame silence her. In 2007, she published a memoir, Dans ma chair, In My Flesh. She wrote honestly about these struggles. She connected them directly to her childhood traumas, refusing to pretend that success had healed her. The book was remarkable for its honesty about how childhood violations echo through decades. She wrote about the impossibility of forgetting what had been done to her. "I will never get the incomparable pain out of my head," she admitted. But she also wrote about resilience, about the choice to transform pain into purpose. She dedicated the book to her children, wanting them to understand their mother's battles. By that time, she had reconciled with her family and regained stability. She was funding her younger siblings' education in France, using her success to lift others. She was planning an orphanage in Senegal specifically for girls vulnerable to genital cutting. The woman who had lost custody of her own children wanted to protect other people's daughters. The memoir's publication brought new attention to both her story and her cause. She was done hiding any part of herself. The struggles with mental health and substance use weren't shameful secrets. They were part of the story of survival. She wanted other women to know that strength didn't mean never falling. It meant getting back up. The memoir turned her into a witness as well as a campaigner. Newspapers ran excerpts. Radio and television booked her to tell the story in her own words. She described the day she was told she would see a film, the walk, the clinic, and the shock. She said what the procedure took from her and how it shaped choices long after. Plain talk pulled the subject out of shadow. Her trips to West Africa increased. She met mothers and asked them to think about their daughters as people with a long future, not just as carriers of custom. She spoke about the lie and the breach in trust. Some mothers wept. Some pushed back from habit. Many listened. Reports from the field said a number of local practitioners chose to stop after speaking with her and with health teams. She worked alongside NGOs, including Tostin, whose community programs aligned with her campaign against female genital cutting. Media attention around her book gave the effort broader reach, turning her testimony into a tool for education. Unlike reports or medical briefings, Katoucha brought lived experience joined with public success. She stood as proof that women could lead full, powerful lives without this tradition. Katoucha also turned Ebony Top Model, a competition she created to train and spotlight young Black and mixed-race talent, into another platform for her message. Between discussions of fashion and modeling, she spoke about women's rights and bodily autonomy. She showed young African women that beauty and ambition could belong entirely to them. By late 2007, she was planning her most ambitious project yet, an orphanage in Senegal that would serve as a sanctuary for girls at risk. She wanted to create the safe space she had never had, a place where girls could grow up without fear of betrayal by those meant to protect them. She was also speaking more boldly about the connections between her activism and her personal struggles. In interviews, she admitted that fighting this battle was both healing and traumatizing. Every time she told her story, she relived it, but she believed the cost was worth it if even one girl was spared what she had endured. By February 4th, police had opened a missing person investigation. Divers searched the Seine while friends and family waited for news. The fashion world held its breath. How does someone as famous as Katoucha simply vanish in the heart of Paris? Nearly a month passed before a grim discovery. On February 28th, someone walking near the Pont du Garigliano spotted a body in the water. Police pulled Katoucha from the Seine, still wearing the glittering dress and boots from that last night out. She had been found 2.5 miles downstream from her mooring. The autopsy results were clinical: death by drowning. No signs of physical trauma. no evidence of violence. Police investigators developed a theory. She had likely fallen into the river accidentally, perhaps struggling with the sometimes jammed hatch of her boat after drinking that evening. The Paris prosecutor officially ruled it an accident, but her family refused to accept this explanation. They filed a formal complaint alleging possible foul play. The timing seemed too convenient, just as her activism was reaching new heights, just as her memoir was gaining international attention. She was gone. Friends privately wondered whether her outspokenness had made enemies, whether someone had wanted to silence her voice. No new suspects were ever named. The investigation closed without providing the answers her family sought. The woman who had spent her life breaking silences was herself silenced, and the circumstances would remain forever unclear. Her funeral in Guinea on March 14, 2008, drew hundreds of mourners. The culture minister praised her as a great ambassador for beauty. Naomi Campbell joined the Paris memorial at the Grand Mosque on March 7th. The fashion world and the activist community mourned separately and together, understanding that they had lost someone irreplaceable. The orphanage she planned was never built. The campaigns she was organizing stopped abruptly, but KPLCE continued, bearing her name and mission. Her children, Amy, Alexander, and Aiden, became keepers of her legacy, ensuring her story wouldn't disappear with her. Katoucha Niane lived 47 years, yet each phase felt like a separate life. A violated child became a supermodel. A supermodel became an activist. Public triumph held private pain. She showed that survival can be a form of resistance, and that beauty can serve justice when wielded with intent. Her death left questions as tangled as her journey. Was it an accident, or did courage draw danger? The record offers no clear answer. What endures is the route she cut, from a clinic in Guinea to Paris runways where she built power, to village meetings where she broke a silence that had shielded harm. She once framed modeling as revenge against what was done to her. The truth reached further. It was transformation. She took the worst moment of her childhood and made it the base of her purpose. In a world that preferred quiet from women like her, she chose speech and kept speaking. The sin could not still her message. Each girl spared cutting because awareness reached her family, adds to that message. Each African model who steps onto a major stage walks a path she helped clear. Each woman who voices a hidden wound follows a light she set with her own story. She knew some wounds never fully close. She also showed that they do not have to define the edges of a life. They can fuel work, build resolve, and protect others from the same harm. That idea, written in her flesh, carried across runways, shared in village courtyards, stands as her lasting victory. What remains is a task for those who hear her name. Keep the facts straight, keep the story honest, and keep doors open for girls who need them. Let courage move through ordinary rooms. Let trust stop being a path to harm. Let her voice keep working through ours.